Hello and welcome. This is Matthias76, and together we are decoding the headlines. I'm here on our webpage. Got that as the backdrop. Encourage you to go out and check it out. www.decodingthedeception.com. We've got a wealth of resources out here for you. It's not just a web page for the sake of having a web page. This web page is loaded with resources, and in the course of this decoding video today, as we decode the headlines, I'm going to show you the resources that we have available here for you. So here is the article that we're going to talk about today. This is kind of the launching pad as we take a look at COVID, and it's from ZeroHedge. And I will show you in just a moment how you can find this article on my website. But this is from ZeroHedge, and the title is Landmark Study Proves COVID Vaccines Much Less Effective Than Advertised. Now, there were a lot of places we can go with this. What I want you to think about is this. Keep a running tally of all the times they have lied to you. It is lie after lie after lie. Those who are promoting the truth, those who have a wholesome, honest, reputable agenda, don't need to mask that agenda, cloak it in a veil of lies. But that's what we encounter. What were we told about these vaccines? Well, let's take a look. Pfizer and Moderna had told us that their vaccines had a 90+% efficacy rate. If I remember right, Pfizer said 95. And remember, with all of this, there were no trials in the usual way with medicines and vaccines. Vaccines get off easy as far as having to achieve any standard of efficacy as opposed to other drugs, but the regular protocols for these drugs to prove their worth, these gene therapies, vaccines, to prove their worth, that was bypassed altogether. And who did the testing? Who were we relying on to tell us, yes, these vaccines work as promised? Well, it was left up to Pfizer and Moderna. Do we see images of the fox guarding the henhouse? Yes, I think we do. And do not forget, Pfizer is the single most frequently sued as far as frequency and amounts. It is the most sued company on the face of the planet. But we trusted them that their vaccine was efficacious and would do what they told us that it would do. What the article here in ZeroHedge shows, and it's got a graph here, and here's the thing. This isn't ZeroHedge. ZeroHedge is reporting on what? Get a load of this. I'll just read the first paragraph. The largest study yet to examine the efficacy of COVID vaccines in the wild has just been published by the University of Oxford and the UK Office for National Statistics, and, unsurprisingly, it found that the efficacy rates for the Pfizer and Moderna are significantly lower than the 90% rates first advertised from the initial controlled trials, their own controlled trials, not verified or checked by anyone. So how does it really play out? Well, it plays out like this, that after 14 days, the efficacy rate for the Pfizer-BioNTech shot is 92%. AstraZeneca's all the way down to 69%. And by the time you get out to 90 days, Pfizer, the efficacy has gone down to 78%, and AstraZeneca, 61%. And remember with all this, that Dr. Bhakti has told us that the goal is going to be to get us to take more and more and more of these shots, more boosters after boosters after booster. And the more of these you take, the more of the spike proteins are infecting your body, and the more of the compounding of the negative effects of these vaccines, the negative effects, which are manifold and obvious, but ignored by almost all. Whenever I talk about the negative impact of these vaccinations, I think it important to go here. This is the Open VAERS Red Box report. There is a link to it on my website. I'll show you that in a moment. You can go right to it when you're out on my website. But when you go to their site, you go to COVID vaccine data and Red Box summary. As through August 6th, 2021, there have been 12,791 fatalities, deaths resulting from these shots. And the list goes on. 95,000 hospital or office visits, 5,590 heart attacks, 4,371 reported cases of myocarditis and pericarditis, most of those occurring in young men. And whenever we talk about VAERS, you have to keep in mind the Lazarus report. And we're going to use the Lazarus report as an opportunity to show you how you can find these resources on our website. For the most part, websites are websites. Unless you're going out there to buy something, and I don't sell anything, a website is just a website. Does it look nice? Yeah. Has it got nice graphics? Yeah. Here, I'm going to make myself disappear so you see the website and not me. Yeah, all of that is good, but what can this website do for me? So I just mentioned the Lazarus report. The Lazarus report tells us that only 1% of adverse effects of vaccines are ever reported. Apply that to that red box report that we saw of 12,000 and some deaths. Staggering to think about. But, well, that's nice. Matthias 76 can talk about a red box or a Lazarus report. Well, show me the facts. So we go over here, research and resources. We go down to our knowledge bases and then document knowledge base. That's going to bring you here. Now we've got different categories, things about climate, the New World Order, politics, but we're going to come here to health. And here we've got COVID-19. There are a lot of resources listed. Right here is the Lazarus report, but if you don't see it and you want to look for it, all you have to do is type Lazarus in the box and it's going to pull it up. And there also is the weekly Open VAERS report. Need to update that. It's behind by a week. But let's open up the Lazarus report. So here is the document. Got my little explanation right here at the top. But here is the Lazarus report. And you can read the entire thing. It's not that long. And you can also, if you so choose, download it. So the resource is right there for you. You can go through and look at the other resources that we have out here, and this will continue to grow over time. I've put 3 resources out here today, and you are able to do the same thing with the video knowledge base. We've got almost 300 videos that we have here on different topics, and here you can go to health and then go to COVID-19, and you can see that they're on top of my own articles, a lot of other articles that we have out here for you. And if you click on it, here's one by Dr. Peter McCullough. You open that article, there it is. This is on BitChute because YouTube took it down. So in order to see it on the big screen, you click here and it's just going to open it right up in BitChute, and you can watch the video. You can also watch it within the window itself. It's just bigger when you go to BitChute. Now back to the article by ZeroHedge. This also, when I put a link, it's going to be to where you can find it on my website. That way, because here's what happens with links. This is why I chose to do it this way. I'll go and click on a link, and I've got an exhaustive file on my computer of different articles that I have saved as PDFs. Most of us don't go to the trouble to do that. I do it because I'm using these articles to produce videos and doing research for my work. But most of us, we click on a link and then we want to go back to that information, but we're going, what? I think the article was by ZeroHedge, but I can't remember. What was the title? And we get bombarded with so many different articles that we lose where it was. So this article by ZeroHedge, we can do the same thing. We're going to go to research, our knowledge bases, document knowledge base, and then we're going to go to health, and here is the article by ZeroHedge. But the thing you can do, you remember the article was by ZeroHedge, and there it is. You pull it up, I saved it as a PDF, and I have it here. You can download it. You can search it. You can search the document and see everywhere that it put in that the word Oxford is there. But also, and this is really neat, if you click on this link, with the way it saves these PDFs, there the article is for you. Opened up, there's their advertising, but opened up where then you can share it with someone else. So, shock and surprise, the pharmaceutical companies were less than honest with us, and their vaccines don't work as well as they promised. And so now everyone's going to need boosters, and more boosters. And trust me, it will never end. I practice what I preach. I tell people all the time, and I say it in the videos. I've got it on my website. Read books. We do a lot of looking at information, we see information, but we don't read all that much. I encourage you to go and read books. Here is the book, one of the books that I am currently reading. It's The Truth About COVID-19, Exposing the Great Reset, Lockdowns, Vaccine Passports, and the New Normal. It is by the very persecuted Dr. Joseph Mercola. Hey, here's an idea. You want to know who to listen to? Out there with all the big names, you want to know who to listen to? Pay attention to who they are attacking. And they have been attacking Dr. Mercola. President Biden put him on basically a public enemies list, like the days of McCarthyism back in the 50s. Dr. Mercola is taking it from all angles. And this book that he wrote along with Ronnie Cummins, I am working my way through it. I won't say I'm enjoying it because there's nothing enjoyable about this, but it is very well done and I am learning a lot. So they continue to bombard us with the message that we're going to need more vaccines, and just stop for a moment to think about what all they have done to our world, to your life, to my life, because of this disease, COVID-19. They have acted as though this were far worse than the Spanish flu epidemic in 1917 and 1918 that killed 50 million people. So it leaves us to ask the question, how tough is COVID-19? Does its virulency, does its fatality rate justify all of this? And so that will take us directly to the book I talked about yesterday, and I am still in the process of reading. It is the book, The Truth About COVID-19, Exposing the Great Reset, Lockdowns, Vaccine Passports, and the New Normal by Dr. Joseph Mercola and Ronnie Cummins. I love this book. It is thoroughly documented, and that is so important when it comes to information. So last night, in my reading. I'm on page 55. I've put it right here on the screen for you. I want to talk about what I learned there and how that relates to this ZeroHedge story. But I'm not going to make you look at this small print. And the heading is COVID versus influenza. How does it compare to the flu that we go through every year, every season? There are fatalities from the flu. How do the two compare? Pretty important question. So we'll read. Though an article in Scientific American called the claim that the virus's fatality is on par with the flu fake news, there's nothing fake about it. We call your attention to research looking at the fatality ratio for the average person, excluding those residing in nursing homes and other long-term care facilities, presented September 2nd, 2020 in Annals of Internal Medicine. The overall non-institutionalized infection fatality ratio for COVID-19 was 0.26%. Persons younger than 40 years had an infection fatality ratio of 0.01%. 1/100th of 1% of people under the age of 40 died from this disease. And overall, it was only 1/4 of 1% of the people who got this disease died. Continuing, those aged 60 or older had an infection fatality ratio of 1.71%. So that was this first paragraph here under COVID versus influenza. And here's the thing I love about this book. Right over here, you see the footnote. He's not just throwing out information. You go and it's actually an end note, but you go back and look at the end notes for chapter 4, and you will find the resource that he has cited for this information. That resource is right here, the Annals of Internal Medicine, the article's title, Infection Fatality Ratios for COVID-19 Among Non-Institutionalized Persons 12 or Older, Results of a Random Sample Prevalence Study. Now, this article, just like the article from ZeroHedge, you can find on my website. I've put it there for you. But this is the resource that Dr. Mercola is citing for this information. The Annals of Internal Medicine, probably most of you have heard that referred to in different media sources. This is a credible scientific journal. And what it tells us is that only 0.26% of the people who get this disease are going to die from it. And if you're under 40, it's a rounding error of 1/100th of 1%. Only people over 60 have a fatality rate of 1.71%. Dr. Mercola continues, other sources are reporting similar findings. During an August 16, 2020 lecture at the Doctors for Disaster Preparedness Convention, Dr. Lee Merritt pointed out that based on deaths per capita, which is the only way to get a true sense of the lethality of this disease, the death rate for COVID-19 at that time was around 0.009%. That number was based on a global total health toll of 709,000 and a global population of 7.8 billion. This also means the average person's chance of surviving an encounter with SARS-CoV-2 was 99.991%. Now let's move on. Same page, next paragraph, influenza. In comparison, the estimated infection fatality rate for seasonal influenza listed in the Annals of Internal Medicine paper is 0.8%. Other sources put it a little higher. In either case, the only people for whom SARS-CoV-2 infection is more dangerous than influenza are those who are over age 60. All others have a lower risk of dying from COVID-19 than they have dying from the flu, emphasis added. So we had 0.001 for those under 40 as opposed to 0.8 for the flu. And so it is little wonder that we read this. White House Coronavirus Task Force Coordinator, Dr. Deborah Birx, also confirmed this far lower than typically reported mortality rate when she, in mid-August 2020, stated that it becomes more and more difficult to get people to comply with mask rules when people start to realize that 99% of us are going to be fine. So again, how tough is COVID-19? And why is it that Team COVID-19 keeps pushing these vaccines? The evidence suggests that we should question their motives. The evidence suggests that we should look for ulterior motives. What is it they're really about? And then, finally, from a couple of pages before, page 53, we had been reading from page 55, this. According to groundbreaking data released by the CDC on August 26, 2020, only 6% of the total COVID-19 related deaths in the U.S. had COVID-19 listed as the sole cause of death on the death certificate. And earlier, and I looked through and was trying to find the reference, but it also states that the other 94% who on their death certificates had other things than COVID-19, in other words, heart disease, diabetes, etc., they had an average of 2.6 comorbidities along with COVID-19 listed as the cause of death. And that data, just as all the other data that Dr. Mercola cites, it's in the footnotes. You can find it, and here it is. I pulled it up. This is the chart, and it's got these things that you can download, one of them being data on deaths involving COVID-19 among ages 0 to 18 are available here. Click to download. You can bet that I'm going to do that and check that out. So, what are we to make of all of this? Have we answered the question that was the premise for this video? It was the ZeroHedge article that launched my train of thought. But the question to be answered was, how tough is COVID-19? Well, I think that what we have found, what the evidence shows, and this is just from a small slice of that book from Dr. Mercola and Ronnie Cummins, I think that what we have found, the data show that it's not as tough as they want us to believe. They have an agenda. They want us to take their vaccines, but it is more. This whole thing about the Great Reset, the technocratic takeover of our lives and our world that is to enslave us is something that merits further investigation. And trust you me, here at Decoding the Deception, as we decode the headlines, we're going to dig into that and find answers. I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank you for being here and joining us. If you've watched this video, if you found it beneficial, please give us a thumbs up. Smash that thumbs up button. It really does make a difference in telling the algorithm to put this video out there. I invite you to subscribe. And if you subscribe, make sure and hit that notification bell so you're made aware when we put out new content. Share this video with others. It's easy to do. Click the link below. And finally, come and visit us. Check out the resource-rich website that we have for you at www.decodingthedeception.com. God bless and have a great day. That concludes our broadcast for today. We publish our videos on YouTube, BitChute, and Brighteon. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give us a like or a thumbs up. We invite you to subscribe so you can continue to receive our content. Also, Please consider sharing this video with others. We love to hear from you, so please leave a comment below. This is Matthias 76, and together we will continue to decode the deception.